computer? Yes. Okay, so we're on live. This is me, Salve, aka Warlock Asylum, with the author, the man, the historian, Keenan Booker, aka the God 720, is in the building. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
What's going on with you, my man?
Good, 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 man. We got some real good treats for y'all tonight, and this is going to get lovely. He did check me on the Warlock Asylum International News footer. This is the OG den, so we're going to be doing our thing. Communicating on a lot of different issues. And before we get even further, he's a known brother out there worldwide. But for those who don't know, I'll have brother introduce himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, here we go. Yeah, well, as he said, my name is Keenan Booker, aka the God 720. In Las Vegas. I've been writing books for about the span of 5 years. I've been teaching on YouTube for about the span of 10. Yeah, I'm a medieval historian. That's what we're talking about tonight. These three books. Kicked Out of Heaven, The Untold History of the White Races from 700 to 1700 AD. My other books you can find on Amazon. All you have to do is just Amazon search my name, Keenan Booker. That's Keenan Booker, Booker. That's about it, I guess.
That's what's up, man. This dude is a dynamic speaker. I mean, at the height of my writing, I guess I still got some more writing to do, but we came across each other's paths, and when I heard the guy talking, I was like, yo, man, this dude, he's got like, this dude got like a lot of wisdom. He has a lot of knowledge, and he's only one of the few people to spark my brain cells, you know what I'm saying? Because we've heard everything, coming from angry seats, coming from, pro seats or whatever. And he just gives you the facts, he gives you information, and it doesn't even get better than this. So I thought, like, we have been working around each other for a while. So we want to start something called the OG Den, where we'll talk about different issues and just things about what we're doing. But I felt that, it's good to hear because this brother's made a remarkable work, a 3-volume series called Kicked Out of Heaven, which deals with medieval history, you know what I'm saying? And, a lot of times we see historians talk about Asia, Africa, maybe South American history, just all sorts of things that I guess are perpetrated in the woke community. Why did you choose to go into medieval history?
At the time, there was a lot of shootings going on. This was the last year of Obama's presidency. And there were a ton of shootings going on, and everything was ranting and raving. I think this is when the Black Lives Matter thing started. It was out of all of these situations, if I'm correct. I don't know, but I think it was around that time. Anyways, there was a lot of shootings going on. I understood that because I understand psychology and how it works and the possibilities that can be within psychology. I hypothesized basically that it was the color black that was working some type of nerve inside the Caucasian thinking pattern, inside the European thinking pattern. So for me to find that, I would have to understand epigenetics is definitely the boat that we surf upon on that ocean of psychology. We're using epigenetics, which is a theory that states your behaviors can stem all the way back to 500,000 years ago. If we were to throw that number out at that, That's how long humans have been existing.
Wow.
So I'm using epigenetics, saying that a lot of the behaviors stem from events that could have happened 1,000 years ago in your blood, correlated to your DNA. Okay, epigenetics is what that's called. And I wanted to separate the color black from a person and see where I can find it at and what traumatic events may have occurred with the color black or that's associated with the color black that would make them respond in extreme life or death fright, as we've seen many situations with these police officers, so on and so forth, road rage situations and other situations. Hold on, 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, as I was stating, I wanted to do that, so that's why it was being written. Okay, it was being written because I went through history, and this all sort of was happening at the same time. I had just wrote the Black Man's Bible, and I wanted to, and as I was looking to market the book, I ran into information stating that you needed to be a real author, in order to sell a book. Don't just come out here selling a book trying to get rich quick. Okay, so I said, all right, these are the rules. So I went on a research for torture. I didn't find anything that that was heavyweight. It didn't feel complete. So we went on the whole thing, sex and violence. Let's go Hollywood and figure out what was going on during this time period. And I also wanted to find out the mentality before the African slave trade, which was in sync with the whole police response or European response towards the quote unquote black people that are titled the word black, but are brown skinned. So even the word usage of black and that having the identification of the color, which has multiple different traumatic experiences to the totality of the European. And I'm talking about everything from Russia to Italy to Germany to Scotland to Iceland, all the way around.
Wow.
Okay, Denmark. Okay, the whole picture have similar experiences, and they all, as I stated, similar. So you have a pie, you have strawberry pie, peach pie, blueberry pie. It's all pies, but they're different. Mm-hmm. And this is the way the cultural dynamic was designed on a large scale. And a lot of these experiences that are also associated with black come from uncontrollable forces like the weather. So there's a lot of reasons I had to write it. Game of Thrones is going on, and then once I got past the torture research and I started researching other subjects, I began to realize how saturated all of us are with medieval. We've all been raised, Mario Brothers is medieval. Three Little Piggies is medieval. Okay, Pin the Tail on the Donkey is medieval. Bobbing for Apples is medieval. It's a long, long list. The cartoons, the majority of the stuff that you witnessed in cartoons actually come from plague experiences. The hair turning white, turning stiff and then falling over dead. All of that stuff is in the cartoons that we were raised on. But these are real experiences that are in the historical documents of the medieval times, scattered all throughout Europe.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what made me go on. There was a lot of interest, Go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty intense process, I can imagine, because you're the only person I know that's a medieval historian, and that, in the true sense of the term. I know people who know about history, but as far as being a historian, and I'm not talking about, people who could rant on about sovereignty and the king's list, but actually what was going on the shadow side in these countries, during the medieval era, I would have to say that, Brother Booker is the only person that I know who has a thorough knowledge on those things, and that's very important. What I like about what you were saying too is that this was a lot of your research, will shed a lot of light on the world before the colonial era in America. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Before the transatlantic, um, slave trade and different things of that nature. Because a lot of times people look at those situations and just want to shoot the blame, on either side of the coin or whatever, without looking at the context of just what the world was like as it is before all of that even came into fruition. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very valuable. And being that I thought, I had put together a couple of questions. I'm going to pull them up in a second that we had discussed a little bit earlier, but I know right now everyone's kind of hot behind this time because it's a time of COVID. And one of the things that you were able to detail and research is the history of plague. Now, just to kind of keep it light, what before we even get into the questions, what led you into the direction of plague? Was it something after you experienced torture, or was it something because of what was going on in Europe at the time and the area of time that you were working with, that it was inescapable, or that you had to open that door?
Okay. Well, I'll give you since this, are we doing some occult? Are we doing the spiritual understanding, the channeling here?
We can get
Okay.
into
Are
it a
we
little
doing that?
bit. Yeah, but I definitely want to
Okay.
get into the
Okay. Well,
plague.
then let
But
me tell you.
yeah, but just
Let me tell you what
say what
happened.
it is, man. Just say it
Okay.
how it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
So I asked the stars, I'm like, what's going on? 700 to 1700. This is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They say they want everything. Now, what happened was, I'm reading the torture. The torture tells me about the criminals. The criminals and the descriptions of the activities that we're doing were heavy occult stuff. So it led me down to the lane of the occult. You see, I'm reading a story about the torture. The executioners is complaining about the witches. They're selling body parts to the alchemists. So I'm like, what is going on with the witches? You study the witches, then the witches got poisoning going on. And then when you study the poisoning, and then you get into the plague. So everything was one thing. Everything was synchronized with each other. There's not one section of these books that you're going to read about that doesn't prepare you for the next section. And as a matter of fact, the weather section, the first chapter prepares you for the entire 3-volume series.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what led me into plague, because even in the first chapter, there's many stories of plague and how plagues occurred. So plagues would occur from the locusts flying over. There was too much species from the locusts, so the people were trying to kill the locusts, and all the putrid bodies from these gigantic locusts created fumigations in the air that made the people sick and created plague, because the locust and the killing of the locust stamped on the food. Messed up the food, Or there's another case in there where the city was overran with rats. There's rats everywhere in the village, and they're trying to kill all these rats, and they don't even know where they're coming from. And then, like on the 4th day of consistent rat bodies everywhere, owls blacking out the sky and swarm on you, and swarm on the whole city and take out and kill all these rats out of nowhere. So it was a lot of these events that are similar, that are recorded. That's just the first chapter, bro. So there was a lot of situations that kept on saying plague here, plague there, plague here, plague there. During courses of wars, there were plagues. During there were so many plagues that market kept going, parties kept going, business had to keep flowing during the course of plague, as we're witnessing right now. And
that's pretty
so
intense stuff, man.
Yeah, it's real.
Now, speaking about nowadays, because everyone's concern is COVID-19. first, before we even get into this, just so that we're clear, because I know there's disease, plague, viruses. What's your definition? How would you define plague? Being that you've written about it, how would you define plague, and how would that compare to what's going on now?
This is not plague, what we're witnessing.
Mm.
I cannot honestly say it's plague.
Oh, wow.
Have I seen plague? Yes. You will be highly affected by the plague section in the second volume. It's right here, right in the middle. As a matter of fact, out of the whole 3-volume series, it's the largest section I wrote. And out of the whole 3 series, it is the most intense and the blackest, darkest section of the entire 3-volume series. You are not witnessing plague because have you seen anybody fall out?
No, I haven't personally.
You're in New York. Come on, brother. You've gone to the grocery store. You've been on the train, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, but I haven't seen. I mean, we had a high death count. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of naysayers on COVID who exist outside of New York. But most people in New York, you know, it's definitely real as far as like the fatality rate. But as far as people falling out in the street and that sort of thing, I mean, nah, I haven't seen that.
Okay, then. Now, from the numbers that you have you seen any abrasion, pus bump, a token is what they used to call them. Did you know that? They used to call pus bumps tokens too. Yeah, those.
No, we haven't seen any of that. It's just basically like flu symptoms and going to the hospital. That's
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody that I know, even those that I know that claim that they know somebody that has died from it, also stated that these individuals had other health complications. I'm telling you right now, right, what you have to understand, how I perceive existence. Everything between me and this thin glass on the cell phone, the computer screen, and the television is 50 to 70% completely green room. Okay? Now, I know you, I've talked to you, so I know that's real.
Yeah.
You know, we understand that. But when you're watching your friends, these individuals who are on the other side of the glass, right? This includes everybody from Trump to Tom Hanks to, Steven Spielberg. They're all on the other side of the glass because you've never seen them in real life.
Right.
Right. These individuals can create transformers. These individuals can go out to the middle of the California desert and make you think they're in Saudi Arabia in the middle of a war zone. Right. So, because these are facts, I cannot accept the numbers on the screen because I know what real plague is. Now, you may say to yourself, oh, okay, you wrote a book, guy. You don't know what real plague is. You wasn't there, blah, 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 blah. Trust me, there is no way you can read these books and you're not. These books are actually what you want to call time machines.
So how would you describe, because
like I just said,
I mean, in the sense that, like, I understand what you're saying clearly, okay, however, for people who may not even have knowledge, some people didn't even have knowledge of the influenza, I spoke to. They didn't, a lot of people
1920, right.
They don't know the details of the Spanish influenza, in lack of a better word. So to go back even further and say, like, in other words, for most people, this is probably the worst that they've ever seen the levels of a virus reach as far as the world having to deal with it, right? Now, can you give us an example of what plague would be, like in comparison to today, so that people can really clearly see? Because, like, if you go historically,
you would see there,
okay, give us an
hear
example.
EMT trucks right now. Let's put it into right now.
Okay.
You would hear EMT trucks would be ranting and raving behind on your side right now. I'd hear EMT trucks on my side ranting and raving. You have to understand the real numbers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers that was going down in 1347, the Black Death, documented was 1,000 to 10,000 a week. This is with no cell phones, no cars,
Wow.
no televisions. Right. And the numbers in this between the span of 1347 and 1350 was anywhere from 25 million to 200 million.
So you're
Okay.
saying that the Black Death of 1347 produced at minimum about 10,000 deaths a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
And that's in
And
a
that's,
lot of different locations. There's a lot of different documents, but that's what was going on. In order to reach any number from a span of 25 million to 200 million, and with that, you'd be smelling death in the air. Death would overroll you, bro. I mean, we wouldn't be able to catch up with the bodies.
now,
You see,
how long did the Black Death last?
3 years.
Wow.
Exactly. But see, that's a door opener for a big mania
Mm-hmm.
that occurred. That mania was shut down with the Great Plague of London. There was another humongous plague that happened.
I think that was 1655 or something. The Great
1665.
Yeah, 1665.
Right, but
yeah.
then look at the metaphysics of the number
Mm-hmm.
as well. There's the 666 right there.
Yeah.
Right. So
Now, how was the numbers with that in comparison to what we see today, as far as what was going on in London?
the London numbers weren't as large as the Black Death numbers. The Black Death numbers were the big boom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the numbers today, like I said, we don't know. You don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't smelled any bodies. There's nobody. Bro, okay. The plague was a situation
Mm-hmm.
where mothers put their children to sleep completely healthy, and in the morning, the little children went to the bed, and mother was already half rotted. She was,
Wow.
a carcass. Yeah,
Wow.
and little kid would get in the bed with mama and all of that. That's why they were playing it's a lot of lock situations. I think there's a layer of it where it could just be all matrix, and it's just all word coding of stories that put certain things in place for our social system.
Now, can you tell
And
us?
that's also what's going on right now. Huh?
Can you tell us some of the horrors that were going on during the plague era, during the medieval times?
They have them in the paintings. One of the most famous painting is a little child sucking on the breast of its dead mother, not knowing that its mother is dead.
Oh, wow.
And that is a painting that's repeatedly painted. Yeah, and this is a plague. The painting is on the outside of the. It's in the market, and there's a lot of bodies right there on the, laying on the ground. And there was also the fright, like I stated earlier, Elmira that you see in the Addams Family. The streak in her hair being white, that comes from fright or being scared to death. You have to understand that there was a lot of words and phrases that we use today. And the majority of the phrases that we use today actually come from plague. So being scared to death or frightened to death or Jesus Christ and Christ's sake, for Christ's sake, and all of those type of statements, those phrases were developed during the course of the plague.
Wow. Hold on. We got to get into this a second. Just like not to get too far into it because we still have some more things to discuss. But I know there's a lot of people out there who probably thought the term Jesus Christ was just calling on, their savior or whatever. So you're saying that Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but you felt that energy right there, didn't you? You felt that, didn't you?
Yeah, well,
yelling
I'm a
to
pagan,
Jesus
so.
Christ. Yeah, you said yelling to Jesus Christ to save is Jesus Christ's sake. You're screaming Jesus Christ out of the fright. You see?
Okay, so this started, the idea of saying Jesus Christ in that manner started from the plague.
Right.
Okay. Now, how did that In other words, so how is that used? I mean, I could understand it like plague and someone, like, oh my God, like, that's another statement that's probably
Well,
coming out
I
of plague.
haven't really, there's a lot of phrases in this area, and I haven't really mustered the thought on all of them, but I'll give you some of them that I have mustered the thought on, which
Okay.
is words like somebody.
Mm-hmm.
A somebody is just a body of some.
Mm.
So when you say, say like a kid get hit by a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And mama runs out and says, I need somebody to come help me. Anybody. They're exclusively talking about the body to come move, work. I don't need you to use your head. I need you to use your body.
Hold on.
So when you're a nobody, you're just a brain. You're just a head that's being used.
Oh wow.
You're
So
a
the word.
decapitated head. Yeah, you see how long it took?
Wait a minute. So somebody actually came from the idea that a person was decapitated?
No, somebody comes from the term of a sum of body, a sum of bodies, like
Okay.
SUM.
Okay. I see.
Right, you're a somebody. Okay, you are body mass.
Okay.
And that's all I need.
Okay.
I don't need you to think.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to operate off of body only.
Gotcha.
You're anybody,
Yes.
somebody, anybody.
Gotcha.
And a nobody is a decapitated head.
Oh wow, I see. Yeah, that's pretty deep.
You see?
Yeah.
So right. So these words were mustered during the plague scenario. So when we say somebody, a body of some, or awesome is also the same thing. A sum of awe. To be awed, when mass people are awed at something, they awe at what? A dead body. You see?
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of, you have to understand that individuals, there was, like you said, to go to the horrors. There was some horrors where the grave diggers and the cart keepers, the ones who rode the dead cart, would watch individuals just run to the grave pit and just jump into the grave pit. They would run naked into the grave pit, wrapped in a blanket, and they would just jump into the pit with the bodies, and then they would just die as soon as they hit the bodies, And then there was situations where they thought people were dead and threw the bodies inside the cart, and they would wake up inside the cart, and there's just carcasses all around them, And these stories are so valid and so real that you fall into this, you see it.
Wow.
You find it's real, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
That's
see
deep.
it.
That's deep.
And what is plague? To answer this question. Now we have to go macro. Macro, when we look at plague, you see plague in Greece, Rome, Egypt, Byzantine Empire, Frank Empire. You see it all around. Okay. Now, when we look at it, and we also look at what was going on socially in these empires at the same time, we see that there is a high level immorality that was going on. And then voila, the plague shows back up, sort of like a spanking, okay? Where, you humans are getting out of place. We got to send back the plague to, put some fear down. Right. So with me stating that, if we were to put it in a spiritual context, there is no control of the plague. And this is also a movement that was definitely documented. As I stated, the plague fits in the space of being a mania that existed for 300 to 400 years. So there was a lot of repetitious activity that was going on in several different locations with several different diseases that supported the plague, that allowed you to study the movement of the plague and see that there's a comparison and contrast with the activity. The activity is that the plague has a mind of its own. Okay? That is the bottom line. Okay? And this is why there are subjects like this don't get touched upon. And this is why there's also a lot of caps on history. And the Great Plague of London was the cap on history when it comes to the plague. And usually people don't get to the Great Plague of London until they get high-level collegiate, until they get high level in the universities, and they've been they've studied these subjects or they're a historian in this area. You see, you're not going to get taught about this right in any other format. I wanted to know what was going on in Europe, and one thing led to another. You see, so when we go to the details of the medieval and what was going on with the plague's behavior during the 300, 400 years, it chose who it wanted.
Wow.
Okay, it jumped over houses, it jumped over cities, it jumped over neighborhoods, it jumped over people. It took out mom, left dad. It took out dad and the dog, left the baby. It took out mom and dad, left the children. It took out only the children, and the dog left the parents. Okay, these are, yeah, you know, grave diggers used to walk in, leave a red splash on the door, stand in front of the door. This house is called shut up, is what they call. And like I stated in my book, now we use the term shut up for you to stop using your terminology out of your mouth, which your mouth carries the plaque, which we changed the word Q into a G, and we have plague, brother. Okay.
Wait, hold that. Run that back again. I got to get back into the shut up mode. So
shut up.
Let's take it from the
so
shut
what
up.
happened?
So go ahead. So
Go ahead.
let me just paint the scenario. So somebody died in a house, and there was a red splash pasted over the door.
Right.
And the house was said to be shut up.
That's the terminology that was used.
Okay. Got it. Now I got it. Okay.
And now today, go ahead.
So today, people use that term shut up without even knowing where it comes from. Got it. Okay.
Voila.
Yeah.
So we use the term shut up to somebody aggressively for them to close their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Like the plague house was closed.
Wow.
So that means you're releasing the plague out of your mouth.
Oh, I see. The power of words, all that sort of thing.
Right. And then now look at how deeper it goes. Right. You have plaque in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So, plaque is spelled Plaque.
Right.
You take the Q and flip it around into G. So, and now you have the word plague.
So was plaque actually, it derives from the word plague on some levels? Would you say?
I don't know. I have never drawn those connections.
Right.
Literal, you know.
Right. From the linguistic historians.
Right, not the literal. No, this is metaphysics. That's metaphysical.
Gotcha.
But you have to understand everything is controlled. Well, I know you understand that, but you know, for the people out there, everything is controlled underneath the guise of metaphysics. Yes,
definitely. Yeah, they try to keep people out of that. Now, okay, so that's pretty deep, man. That's pretty deep. So during the medieval era, you touched on it a little bit. What were some of the superstitions that people held about disease, and how did they react to it based on their superstitious beliefs?
A lot of magic that we still understand and use today, or words like abracadabra, were started to become relics that defended against the plague. So they considered the plague to be part of the devil. Now, what I'm about to give you right now is the deep, very underlining of the medieval thought of the war in between Catholicism and witchcraft. Okay. So when you look at old Europe, you see a lot of gargoyles or maybe human beings doing sexual acts on buildings and stuff of this nature. The thought is that the devil doesn't want man to reproduce. So imagery of reproduction battles against the devil and scares off devils.
Hold on a second.
Right.
I got to touch on this a second. And the reason why I got to touch on this, because I think we spoke about this off camera before, and you may have not known, but I did a video about it, right? And I did a video about, I don't want to digress too much, but about, because a lot of times I've seen on Facebook or other social media outlets, things in the Catholic Church that seem to be erotic, right? Erotic stuff. And I did a video about the eroticism that went on in Egypt also, You know, like how they were highly erotic. Because I think it was a brother Aline, actually. He was talking one day in a video, like, I want to see what was down in the basement of the museum. And, you know, it seemed like someone's trying to keep a secret, but really, there's a lot of erotic art that they keep in the basements of museums that they don't bring to the forefront because it's too erotic. You know what I'm saying? Even in Egypt. So go ahead, continue, because I didn't know that that's why they were putting out those signs of reproduction. You know what I'm saying? I knew about the eroticism that was connected to religion, even to Christianity.
Well, because there's a lot of things that happen with because you have to understand
Mm-hmm.
maturity. And when I say that, I'm not speaking directly to you, but
Right.
I'm speaking to the audience. Maturity is found in sex.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There it is.
Right.
So if you don't have, the more sex you have, the more mature you become.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have sex into the status of 1,000 years old. This would also include with experiences and also intelligence, reading, but enough sex is going to push you into those fields as well.
Okay.
Because the desire, right, you know, and sex is, and the desire of sex also proves your internal biology and the capacity of it and the strength of it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who have a desire, you know, 14, 15 to get out there and get to smash the brony, and they're smashing nonstop, and they're smashing all the way up to their 30, 40 years old, you know, and they at it. They're going to have far more experience because they've been with far more different races. And then when you have, you know, or just far more people, period, regardless of race, the more people you have sex with, the more intelligent you become about existence overall. Mm-hmm. You see?
Oh, right. Now, do you think that a lot of that is based on the predatory or vampirism involved in sexuality as far as exchanging energy? Or is it just as far as the action itself? Like you said, it does strengthen the body. Like if a person has a cold, he don't really have that desire. So you know, the most healthiest individuals are the most potent, you know, the most viral, you know, the most powerless, right? So I get that. But go ahead, continue, brother. I'm just on just peeping the train of thought.
Oh, well, I mean,
every moment. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you even see it with what happened in play. There was this a whole sexual behavioral response with what was going down with the activities of the plague. It was a biological threat, you know, and with the biological threat, women go a little bit harder with sexual advance, and because it's a threat going on, you know. And that's just one of those unconscious responses that we have towards those type of situations. And that's what's going on right now. And if you don't see it now, you're definitely going to see it later. But that's only if it's a reality and it's affecting us by our internal intelligence coming from the atmosphere, because the TV is not reliable. The numbers that they're promoting on the TV is not the numbers that you have seen. It is not the numbers that I've talked to individuals who work in hospitals. It's not there. From what we're seeing in our everyday lives is not supporting the reality, of the numbers on the screen, because that is a reality. Now, here's the thing. They know you're not educated about plague, so you can't identify it no way. You see?
Right.
They know nobody's educated about plague. And if you think you're going to get educated about plague, we'll give you the yellow fever that happened in Tennessee in the 1940s in San Diego. Oh, we'll give you the Spanish flu 1920, WDB. You're not learning about real plague that has really occurred. And there's been tons of them that has created feeding with a long-handled spoon. That is a term that comes from the plague.
I would say that a lot of plague historically, right, in the medieval era happened in lands that were Christian, right? Did that in any way influence the religion of Christianity, or did Christianity evolve because of dealing with the plague? Now, I do know, before you answer that question, because I heard you mention about like exorcisms and things of that nature that was going on. Because I know that went back on in Chaldean Babylon. People thought that sick was a sign of a wicked spirit in the body. And, you know, I'm not going to debate that belief so much on a metaphysical level, because when you say spirit, to the average person, they're thinking of ghosts, but spirit could also mean emotions. It could also mean, you know, just the ill thing. They just might have had one umbrella word for something that we are doing scientifically. They also consider that as well, right? But what would you say as far as like the evolution of the church and its role with the community based on plague?
All of that's locked up in Catholicism.
Hmm.
There's none of that in Christianity.
Okay, okay.
All disease is locked up into Catholicism. There's no disease science inside Christianity.
No,
And
no.
disease is not religiously related. There's far more plagues that have occurred in the Asiatic lands in China than
Mm,
has occurred in
gotcha.
Europe.
Okay, so that's going to
So
make some of that clear.
the Turks have been affected by plagues. Yeah, there's been a lot of plagues in a lot of different areas of the planet and throughout history. I haven't found any plagues inside of tribal Africa or anything, any
Hmm.
plagues hitting any tribes, but tribes don't document their information. So there's
Yeah, we wouldn't
you
know.
wouldn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, so that's what's up, man. I mean, the work that you've done is definitely commendable. Just had a couple of more questions, but
Keep on.
in your opinion, how did people survive the horrors of such plagues and turn their condition around?
Um, this is also inclusive with wars, inclusive with the weather, inclusive with the sporadicness and the chaos of not knowing tomorrow, which is the reverse of what you see with the Black Lives Matter. Black people right now, they're just putting themselves in positions to get killed, and they're doing that because of their lack of understanding of tomorrow and the lack of understanding of their environment. This is the same thing that happened with the Caucasian mind, but the Caucasian mind on the reverse scale focused in on one object.
Hmm.
So this is where you see anthropomorphic type of activity where animals are talking. And this is where you see, the study of how many frogs are on the planet, or the study of how many different snakes are on the planet.
Hmm.
They shut down and they objectify. They find one thing to attach their whole entire existence to, and they cut humans out,
Hmm.
you know,
So,
of any type of communication having to deal. This is what enforces the scientific mind.
mhm,
So this is what allows them to study a frog skin for 10, 20 hours. This is what allows them to collect butterflies and collect different ants.
mhm,
Is their mind got so pressured with the chaos environment that was around them, for them to survive, they had to fall in love with one thing and one thing only, and everything else was deleted in order for their survival to be concrete with focus and attention on one thing.
mhm. So let me step this back a little bit, because
How do you
because that's
feel
another
about what I
topic.
just
So
stated?
we got a couple of topics to get on, because there's something I wanted you to illustrate to the audience, just to show you how much range that you got. Because every time I talk to you, I always learn something. You know what I'm saying? I'm a
All right.
writer myself, so it's really kind of like a big up to say that. You know what I mean? But
Appreciate it.
I wanted to kind of focus in a little bit more about what you were saying, because we covered the COVID topic, right?
Mhm.
So the next topic that you touched on it briefly, we don't have to expand on it too much, you know what I'm saying? Because we're still in the plague element in this episode. But the Black Lives Matters, because you mentioned something on that level.
Yeah, okay, keep going, go, hit me.
Yeah, because a lot of people now, I mean, I had did research in the organization years ago, and I knew his connection to Soros and all that crazy stuff. And usually during the election time, that's we see his change of the guard from Democrat to Republican. It's always something like Wall Street, 99%. You know, it's just been that way since the fall of the towers. That political people have been, how can I say this? The people who invested in prison building are now investing in protest movements. They can get a lot of donations from around the world and they can funnel the money into a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, to make a long story short, before we get back into the question, I always held this view because if you look at the Martin Luther King trials, there were trials that Congress had because a lot of people complaining when MLK got assassinated. They're like, man, that guy wasn't doing anything. Why was the FBI following? So they took the FBI and put them on trial. And during the trials, the FBI said the King used his influence in a way that we didn't think was advisable. We were going to replace him with our own leader and take him out. That's what they told Congress. So right there, I'm thinking, okay, this is 1968, and they said they had the power to put their own leader in. So that means we have to look at the leadership. You see what I'm saying? But nowadays, people don't do that. They just, I feel like BLM is like fast food activism. We got everything set up for you, and here you can vent your anger. But we're not going to talk with the politicians. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're just going to allow you to protest, and people feel good because they made some noise. You know, we got a sign out. You know, we got a Rick Ross slogan.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? You know, but how would you you know go in on that? Like as far as you know, because there's been like a lot of talk about BLM. You know, is it good? Is it not good? You know, like
no,
let's give it to us straight. Yeah, let's give it to us straight.
You have to understand.
Yeah,
we're dealing with a hardcore illusionist.
mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what you have to understand.
Yeah.
This is hardcore illusion, and it's in sync with everything.
Mm-hmm.
The big picture is that it's all destroying society. The giving out its stimulus checks, it's emptying out the stores, and the stores aren't being restocked. Empty buildings getting spray painted on, protests are coming through. Protests for any reason. And they're tearing up the city, they're tearing up bridges, they're tearing up stores and the glass, the storefronts. You know, who's gonna repay for that stuff to get rebuilt? You see?
Yeah.
Right, because there's no money moving right now. Everybody's using this virus as a you know, as an excuse. Yeah, you have to understand that, look, these individuals understand that the standard human thinking does not exceed 12 to 15 years old.
Right. That's why they call minorities.
Okay. Right. So they know what games to play and how to play it. Me explaining anything on how the games work, it actually will do nothing. You know, because they're just gonna go in one ear and out the other because they're not at the comprehension of the reality space of how these things really work. You know, and that's the whole thing. It's a buildup. You know, just like the coronavirus. If the coronavirus is real, let's hypothesize it's real. I would have to lean on the chemtrails. The chemtrails have been in the air for about 20 years. When we look at what's been going on socially, you've been weakened socially in a multitude of different areas psychologically. You've been pumped with the Tyler Perry. You've been eating on the dollar menu. You've been drinking on the soda. They then took all the liquors and put flavors in them. They've taken all the tobaccos and put new little flavors, new little mint cookies, and all the cigars for everybody. And then you got the GoFundMe, just be a beggar. That is a vagabond. You are a beggar, vagabond, and the vagabond and the beggar in the medieval times was known to be a host for disease. You see? So you're eating the low gas station food, and now we got you thinking in the backward format, and now you're questioning what your sexual organs are supposed to do or what type of being you're supposed to be having your sexual organs toyed with, you see. And this is the weak mental status they put you at So now that you've accepted all these areas of weakness, a dog farts in the room and 20 of you motherfuckers fall over and die. You know what I'm saying? I ain't read the
Yeah.
customer, dude.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. I mean, this is raw
Yeah.
talk, you know what I'm saying? So,
Excuse me, French. Is
yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all good. I mean, we get it, you know what I mean? I just want to kind of touch base on that because when I see, like, I had to admit that, like, when Corbett started, I didn't know what this was about, you know what I'm saying? But all I knew was that the news was pumping out reports like every 10 minutes, and some of the reports was like people on their deathbed and hearing this, and it's just like, yo, man, I gotta turn this thing off. So after that, I started hearing about BLM. I already knew that BLM, how it was created and what its purpose was created for. You know what I'm saying? If you can control a movement that represents, it's like you put, like the CIA putting in a puppet government in the Congo. It's so, since indigenous people, African Americans, and people of color, brown people, black people, Asian people, they're all under the U.S. government. So the best way you can control them is by creating the leadership for them. People say, hey, there's no leadership in the community. Da da. Okay,
Yeah, but see, let me show you something.
Go ahead.
Quick. Leadership, right? This is the
Mm-hmm.
word we lean on. So we had the Malcolm X, the Huey P. Newton, blah, Elijah Muhammad. Leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you need leadership? Because you don't have fathers collectively.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Watch this.
Mm-hmm.
In the animal kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
the male does not assist the female with the raising of the offspring.
Mm-hmm.
So you're an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So since you operate in the animal format, we know how to operate on animals, and it's a simple system.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
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 We can throw
definitely.
the leadership in there. Right, because you're begging for it. You're begging for the father that's not there, that's collectively, because you're in the animal condition. So I can treat you like animals, and this is justified on all realms of existence. This is ethereal law level. You know what I'm saying? All of this is justified for me to treat you like this because of the format you're already acting in.
Yeah, because there's a whole dialogue, as you probably seen. I don't really have to tell you, but there's a dialogue going on where we have a certain conservative view now that's on the rise. Because I think people are just tired of like the Democratic. They're just tired of the old way, and
I'm telling you, but that's the whole thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
You made those who tear down civilizations do not have the intelligence to rebuild them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the point.
Yeah.
You're filled with so much anger trying to destroy and trying to stop something, and you don't even have the intelligence to rebuild it or create it from your own.
Yeah, we've seen that like in groups that went on in certain communities. I guess now that they would call woke or conscious, and these people are corrupt. The communities
you don't know what
corrupt.
you're doing.
You know what I'm saying? Their communities are corrupt. The leadership is corrupt, but they're angry at somebody else, and that's the drawing power that they have. Hey, be part of us, and we'll do this and that, and they don't have their own house clean. And
Black people are angry. Go ahead.
And it's
Black people. Oh, good.
It's all good. Go ahead, brother. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All I was gonna say was Black people are confused,
and
they don't know what their environment is. When you understand the English language, they don't even know how to effectively use the English language. They don't know anything about this environment. So, they want to blame slavery for 500 years, but they don't blame bad parenting for 200, 300 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these things should have already been discovered and figured out eons ago. But it wasn't because of the lack of due diligence, and it's also because of this is a new situation for the genetic scope of these beings. Let's be honest. The majority of native people come from the mud hut, the TP. Okay? This is the fact. Now, these mud huts may be large. The TP could fit 100 people in it. So what? It was still a TP. It did not have the air condition, okay? It did not have the oil lamp and all this other stuff that we're operating off of now. The existence that me and you live off of and have lived, have that were met with, we were born, is European. We have European names. This is a Western dynamic. You can change your name, but guess what? When you walk out on that street, you're announcing European names again on your cars, on everything else, and you do not know what European is, what Caucasian is, where these individuals are from, what they were doing in Europe, why they had to leave Europe. Why did the Pilgrims leave Europe? They never explained that. They said, oh, we're just going to float 3,000 miles across the ocean and just meet some Indians and have a Thanksgiving. That is not the events that occurred. That wasn't the real reason why they left. So when we left, we look at Europe and see why you left, and then note that the Pilgrims were wearing all black. Note that all the witches wear black. Note that the executioners were wearing black. Note that the first plague was called the Black Death. Okay. Note that the entity that is death that arose out of the plague scenario, and the reason why I stated that earlier about plague having its own mind, they gave it a caricature. This caricature was the skeleton at first that was disemboweled. And you just carry, the Sith with him, the scythe. The scythe sword that the death carries is actually a gardening tool that the Scythians used, and they also used it as a war tool. And that is why it is called that, the scythe, okay? So death, was roaring at that time. He was ravaging the land, and the power was so great and so mysterious and so strong. And it was similar to what you felt in February, the great confusion that smashed on everybody's head. That was a little bit of it, but that's not how dark it can actually get. It can get way greater than that. You know what I'm saying?
So where do you think this thing is going with COVID?
The COVID is not the important part. The important part is the monetary. We're so backward right now. If we were to start right now, everything back today, rolling, y'all ain't got to wear no mask, go back to work, the kids go to school and everything. It's going to take us 2 to 5 years to catch up from all of this shit that just happened. Huh?
If we can, because see, here's the thing that because I deal a lot with the crypto world and technology and stuff. So we got China. They're getting ready to China has a lot of people in their population, but they have enough money to put 2 satellites up per person so they can launch this 5G platform. The 5G platform is going to go like this. You think that you need an Uber and you say the word, and the satellite takes a picture of your face and sends it to Uber, and the car pulls up 30 seconds later. That's the platform that they're about to use. Now, in the crypto world,
go ahead.
In the crypto world, okay, a lot of people, because I have a nephew, we always debate about cryptocurrency, but people make millions off of crypto. Like if you look at my supervisor, he was just telling me like, look, man, go into Chainlink. Chainlink for $6. This was last week. Today is $14. People are making huge money because the blockchains that crypto work on works like this. Let's say a bank needs to wire $100 million to India, right? Okay, that would take 7 to 10 business days. So we have a corporation called Swift that you can see on MoneyGram when you transfer money, right? So if you wire 100 million, you might pay a couple of like 60,000. That's nothing for a bank. But the thing is, based on inflation, there could be a difference of 5 or 10%. When you talk about $100 million, that's a lot of money. But for a bank, that's not a lot. But this is why debt continues. Okay. Crypto can send that money within 20 seconds. That would take 7 to 10 business days for Swift to do. You know what I'm saying? When people wire money. So the thing is, if the United States doesn't bring digital currency into its thing, most of the crypto is being used in the Asian world. So that's why they're able to cut down debt so fast. It's because the money's moving faster. We're on a system where it's like, hey man, I want to get some potato chips and I'll pay you 7 days later. Can you imagine walking to a store, like take a bag of chips, hey, I'm going to pay you 7 days later. Like if you don't know the dude like that, you can't live like that's how we're living. So while all this confusion is going on with COVID, Black Lives Matters, all this kind of stuff, the crypto market, Bitcoin went down to $3,000 on March 12th. A week later, it was back at $9,000, right? It's been floating between $9,000. I talked to my nephew last Friday at 9, that stuff, whatever. By Monday, it was up to 13,000. You understand what I'm saying?
Where's it at right now?
Right now, it's about 12,000. This is the market that they're using, because even if it's not Bitcoin or whatever, a person has to think digital currency, like the credit card, all these other devices, is like the next wave of stuff. And then people are buying it in fractions. Like you can take $1 and buy a piece. You can take 50 cents and buy a piece. It's not like you have to buy a whole coin. You know what I'm saying? And your money still inflates. But the thing is, when I'm looking at it, is that if the states cannot evolve to that technological level, you can forget about it. You can forget about it.
No, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not going to evolve, because you already see we're beating up the country with all of this Black Lives Matter stuff. The deterioration happens, with the eyesore. You leave your house and everything is just garbage.
That's the because see, that's a game. It took me a long time to figure that out, but once you free yourself from that, you can see much more clearly. Like that's what I think drew me a lot to your information, because you were one of the first people I saw. Like, man, that dude, he really know what it is. Because a lot of people, when you start putting people in categories, and all you have to do is match the category with something external. For example, in fashion, you have a lot of fashion designers. A lot of fashion designers from Europe. They're going to Africa, study the tribal wear, and introduce that product as a fashion product. You know what I'm saying? And people are like, oh man, I want to get this, not knowing that, they just got this from some people over in Rwanda or something. It's the same thing with protests. These people already know what the mindset and the ideology is in impoverished communities. So all they have to do is set up a program that is tax-free, cost-free. They don't have to do anything. So you see Sharpton at John Lewis' funeral, and he's like, oh man, I don't have to do anything. These young kids got it. No, they don't have it. It's made for them to take, because it's not their movement. You see what I'm saying? It's not, they're designing it. Give an example. You know how much Black Lives Matters, how much money that they get? Let's say there's about 30 million Black people in America, right? Let's say we cut the number down to 20 million for people whose families were sharecroppers, okay? If you gave each of those people, including the babies, 500,000, let's say we're gonna give you this as reparations, okay? That people say, okay, that's good, 500,000, $500,000, that's good. That's only $10 million. That's only 10 million, that's nothing. A sports player be like, yo, man, just put your address down, I'll send you 500,000 right now. You got people who are from the African, quote unquote, African American community who can pay a reparation bill. You got people like that. Oprah, you got a lot of people like that. Like, look, man, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna give y'all 500,000, whatever. Okay. These organizations pull in billions of dollars. You know why? Because they're protesting in Poland. Because they're protesters, and we like, yeah, man, that's good. And it does, in some ways, lead to some camaraderie of what America's doing after Obama veil have been pulled. But at the same time, it's putting money into an organization that's not owned by these people. You see what I'm saying? That is being funneled to other areas outside of the community. So Bank of America last month gave BLM a check for $100 million. Now, given the scenario, $10 million could have been took and the reparation bill could have been paid. It's just that simple. 10 million could have been took and there's still 90 million left over. You see what I'm saying? So once you set that up, like prison building, you can bleed the money out of you don't even have to bleed the money out of community at that point. You could just bleed the money for the cause. Out of the cause, you can take the money out of. and give these people, hey, we made some noise today. Hey, that's a move towards justice. Meanwhile, no one's meeting with the police chiefs, the politicians, no agendas being set forth, and this is what's going on. So I think while that's going on, you know what I'm saying, which is not a conversation that has any like the Panthers, all these other groups had some sort of like point program or bill or some agenda that they can meet someone on and say, we want this, this, and this. But since there's none of that, it's just a whole bunch of noise being made. And maybe someone saying like, hey, you know, we feel outraged. Let's take Uncle Ben Rice off the show. You know, let's do this sort of thing. But it's not really anything collectively being done because it's still of the issues that you mentioned about family life and things of that nature that are not being addressed. So while that's going on, because we do have to consider this factor, last year it was discovered that Black Lives Matters ads was being posted by Russians. They were paying for the ads. You know what I'm saying? So you put this dude in office. We know that America has a race problem. So let's create the turmoil, and then we could fast pace, build our economy up, build our stature up, and we have so many agents in your government already that it's a done deal, B. This is done. It's done.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you right now, bro. I'm gonna tell you right now. When you go into the medieval, you run into a lot of groups. So you run into groups like the Cal's Head Club. You run into the Kit Kat Club. You know, the Kit Kat, like the candy bar.
Yeah.
It was actually the Kit Kat Club in the medieval times was a political party. You know, the Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry was a group that was, you know, they had a ton of different.
Oh, so like Tom and Jerry's
groups,
ice cream.
Bro. Yeah, Tom and Jerry, or Tom and Jerry the cartoon that we grew up on.
Wow.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry was actually a play that embodied the stereotypes of France and all the different stereotypes of France when it came to the vagabond and the whore and the policeman and all of that. It sort of embodied all the caricatures. And through that Tom and Jerry cartoon, I'm pretty sure all those spirits embedded in those caricatures was played out through the circumstances inside the cartoon.
Wow. Now there's one more thing.
So what happens is when you're watching circumstances inside of a play or a movie, the circumstance of watching the individual go from A through Z maps your wires, maps the wiring nerving in your brain. And that's how you comprehend existence and how to correlate in your social existence. You see?
Yeah.
So that's the same as ghost stories. That's the same as mythology stories that are told to little children. In any culture, there's a specific format.
So something you just said just hit me, because you was using the word black a lot, right? When it comes to play. So I gotta say this because I gotta seal this side off of it with the BLM discussion before we go on just one extra yard. So the fact that the term black was used, like Black Death, all this sort of thing that was going on during medieval times, do you think it's a coincidence that during a threatening virus that Black Lives Matters, the attention on that group is being pulled up?
Well, Black Lives Matter and the Black Death. They're scared to use the word plague because they don't want anybody to go looking up the word plague and starting to find a whole nother hole. The deepest line of the word black, where everything fits underneath it, and we're talking about everything from the witches to the executioners and the Black Madonnas that the popes pray to, the Black saints. Even when we talk about ergot being the root chemical to LSD, when it rots, the rye, when it rots, it turns black. When you eat it and you become sickened off of rye, you become black. It was called the Black Death because it rotted the body to the color black. All of these events, good and evil, the unknown and the known unknowns, are inside the word black. And this black is found by the primordial mother, which is the blackness of outer space. So the Black Madonna, when she's prayed to, they're praying to the galactical intelligence is what they're praying to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I see.
So, right. So the activities of the executioner is galactical intelligence. The activities of the CEO who wears the black suit and rides in the black limo is also underneath the rights of extreme chaos, the known unknowns. We know he's there, but we don't know what numbers he's looking at. We don't know what he has to deal with on the day to day. You see what I'm saying? So there's galactical level intelligence of what we're dealing with when we say the Black Plague as well. Because as I stated, with it being death, and death is also black, which his skeleton was painted as black and gray in the early paintings until around 1600, 1700, the paintings start showing the monk cloak. Why the monk's cloak, which that's what he's wearing, is the monk's cloak that comes over, stems from the overusage of the plague doctor's outfit, which had the beak, which is the long nose, the animal snout, the whole science of the animal snout and the long nose and insatiability. We'll do that on another show.
Yeah.
But the plague mask that was symbolizing the bird beak, called the beak mask, was filled with patchouli and filled with herbs and oils that protected from the air, because in essence they didn't know where the plague was coming from. So because they didn't know where the plague was coming from, but they identified the plague to have a mind of its own, it had to fit underneath the color black, because the color black is identified in outer space as the unknown intelligence. As we do know it is there, but we don't know what's up in there. We don't know what's in outer space. We don't know if the blackness of outer space has an ending. We don't know why the many stars that are in the blackness of outer space, if they're so powerful like our sun, how come they don't delete the blackness as we turn on a light in the room and it destroys the blackness in the room? So there's many questions about what the blackness of outer space is, and this allegiance to it and worship of it, which is found all throughout witchcraft, Catholicism, and many other systems throughout this entire planet. The Cabal stone of Islam is also black.
Right.
Right? Exactly. You see it everywhere. So, when they show you Jesus' cross, it's black, it's it's black. There's a lot of blackness everywhere. When they show the sorrowful scenes of Jesus hanging on the cross. Right. It's dark. Right. So, and then also the worshiping of the dead carcass, which is another thing that you see with the Jesus being on the torture symbol of the cross, which that is a torture device, the cross, and that is also correlated to the worship of the body when that was discovered during the plague. So you have to understand that there was a large discovery of the unconscious zone of the human mind that worships death in the status of perfection. The dead body is perfect. Right, to the human. I talk about this in my book, The Ethereal Law, not necessarily in here. The Ethereal Law is my leftovers from writing.
Yeah, Ethereal Law I thought was brilliant text, man. I mean, that stuff is like poetry. That's what I liked about it. It wasn't like there's some books that I can. There's levels of writing, right? There's different levels of writing, and a lot of times when you're writing to people who are actually unaware, they'll look for the reference, what I'm saying, because they need the reference, as a point, there you go, as a point of stability, what I'm saying? They need the reference as a crutch. A lot of times, when given the reference, they're satisfied, but then are they going to ask Plato for a reference? Are they going to ask Socrates for a reference? So what I liked about Ethereal Law, because there are books that really spark your thinking that really don't have all that reference stuff in it. It's just facts, what I'm saying, in the sense of things that relate, and to take those experiences and draw them up on a deeper level. That's what I liked about Ethereal Law, was that it wasn't all about well, this comes from here, this comes from here. It was just like poetry because it was just so
Right.
straight that you could read. You know what I mean? And I thought that was like a level of like scholarship also. You know, when you read stuff like by Gurdjieff and stuff like that, these dudes wasn't looking for no reference. They were just like, yo, this is what this is. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was a really good way of introducing it. I got one last question, and I need you to ride with me on this one right here. I just want to show the audience like some of the depth of the mind of the 720. You know what I'm saying? So there was one time I'm gonna try to share my screen a second, but I need you to give me the reference because this was very fascinating to me. You had mentioned that there was a West Indian parade that people put tar over themselves, like blue tar, like some sort of festival, right?
Yeah, the Blue Devils, yeah.
And that comes from something else. So, like, I just want to share the screen and show the audience just a clip. Now, what was the original thing that comes from? Like, can you drop a little bit of science on that a little bit?
You're reaching up in the Real Nigga Etiquette Voodoo edition right now.
Okay.
That's right here. Let me show that.
Wow. Wow.
Real Nigga Etiquette, the Voodoo edition.
I
Okay.
haven't even read that. That looks good, man.
Yeah, this is all the history of the Caribbean right here. So what the question you just asked is Caribbean related.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can show the people the picture you're talking about. What you're talking about is the Blue Devils.
Okay.
The Blue Devils come from the medieval time period, and they were filtered into a couple of different areas into our today's society. The individuals that you're specifically related to are called the jobs. Okay? And the jobs are the jobs are exactly that, jobs. But these are spelled Jabjab. Job is a word for devil in France. So it means double devil. Okay, and these are devils that were incarnated into the Caribbean people during the breaking processes of America. The Blue Devils of the medieval times also are the seat of the police structure, the Boys in Blue. They're also inside the Smurfs. They're also inside the Blue Devils, Blue Demons for the universities, for those college sports teams that are named the Blue Devils and the Blue Demons. And then you have them also in this scenario with the Caribbean. Their objective is to work. Now, what does the color blue represent? Which this is also a part of the play. It's funny how you went for this question, and it does stem all the way back down to plague.
Wow.
So the color blue in medieval thought actually was the original color of death. Before black. It was blue.
Wow.
Right. So blue is the original color of mort. When you say the word mort, you're also saying blue, azul. Like in Spanish, they say azul, azul. In Spanish is Spain. Remember that. Spanish is not Mexican. So, right, when you're dealing with medieval times, you have to understand that Spain, when you say Spain in the medieval sense, you're saying half Negro or the niggas over there, basically. You're saying, the passageway to Africa, because that is literally the doorway that walks through. Because right out geographically, it's Africa, then it's Spain, and then it's France. Okay. Now, to go down to the Blue Devils on the literal, on the deep psychological side, or what they are on the other mirror, and why they're represented as devils, and why they're these little miniature individuals that cause pain that you'll see on drawings of gout. You'll see them on alcohol-related drawings. You'll see them on the pains of waking up in the morning. These are the devils that attack you in these regions, the pains of waking up in the morning, stuff like that. Now, it comes from generational alcoholism. And when children are withdrawing from generational alcoholism, these entities show up, basically. They claim that they see them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I learned throughout the Kicked Out of Heaven that made me respect and change my gears on how I process life was to allow one to state that they see whatever they see. This is a reality that Native people don't comprehend, that Caucasians do comprehend. That if one person claims that they see something, they stand by and they listen dearly, even though they might not be able to see it. You have to understand the combinations of toxicity that can occur in one person's body, and the extreme levels of experiences that one may occur to one person that will put them actually in a zone to see things that you cannot see. There are many descriptions in the medieval times, and also in the stories of Catholicism dealing with the saints, of individuals that are the 20 individuals seeing something and running from the sky because there's angels and devils going to war in the sky, and the other people are just in the market shopping because they don't see any of that, you know. But what was going on was, like I said earlier, the poisoned rye, which is ergot, which is the root chemical for LSD, was in the food. So there was a lot of chemical combinations that automatically enforced hallucinations that was inside their food that they didn't know anything about, or that we knew about. You know, ergot wasn't thoroughly discovered as a chemical to be an alteration until situation happened in the late 1800s, and then they started to figure it out about the ergot. But even before ergot, we could take, like I said, the Blue Devils are entities that show up after the withdrawal of generational alcoholism. Generational alcoholism is in their documentation all the way back until Greece. They wean their babies directly from wine to, from the breast straight to wine, with no water in between.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot. That's heavy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the toxicity levels that they were dealing with. And then I didn't even mention the diseases that also had different levels of toxicity and hallucinations. Syphilis brought hallucinations to the mind. Alcoholism brought hallucinations to the mind. Ergotism brought hallucinations to the mind. And then there's also different metabolisms of these levels that they were dealing with. And not only that, the foods that they were eating were extremely backwards. They were eating stuff like reversed eel, but these are also Asiatic foods. There's black puddings, pig blood with oatmeal. So you can imagine the type of hallucinations that could have come, the aura, know what I'm saying? The aura of the foods and all of that being enforced into their thought pattern and how they perceive.
Definitely affecting the mind.
So, so to go thorough back to the Caribbean, I had to explain all that about the color blue. And not only that, there's another thing. The word blue is represented inside the English word pattern underneath HYP. So anything or HP, anything that's HP, watch what we're about to do right here. Hype, happy, hope, help. You see that?
Yeah.
They're all euphoria words. When everything happens, you better be happy when it happens. Happy and happen are the same word. When things happen, be happy. Yeah. To have hope, to smoke hemp, your hips, you move your hips around, herpes, the disease from sexual activity. To seek help is an exhaustion. Okay. All of that is the color blue. All of that to be hypochondriac, hyper, all of that is representing the color blue, which also represents the blue devils, and hyperactivity. And then on the other side of the flip coin, depression. When you get let down from being hyper, from expecting something, you immediately fall into a depression. Your wife's gonna come over. You thought she was gonna come over and rock your world or whatever, and then she gives you a call and says, "Oh, I gotta go to work. I just got called in." Depression. You got hype, and then So that little energy structure and all of that embedded inside those words of the H and the P and the hype is the color blue, which is the color blue being put onside these devils inside the Indian Caribbean, is a battery system for the work nature and the hyperactivity of the African American culture.
Mm.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Did you follow? So we're talking about illusion, high level illusion workload. And when you're a high level hype, you can't you can't see shit, you can't focus. You see? So you're high illusion, you're highly hyper, that's all embedded inside the color blue and inside the HYP. Hip hop, HP.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Wow.
To hip is sexual enjoyment, hop is the jump. Bunny, hop. You see?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
we take that, the HP and the HP, right, and we have the color blue correlated in that, and then we put that into the Caribbean, right? And then from the Caribbean, we have Crips in LA who dance. They dance in a dance that is similar to the Irish jig. And the Irish jig is a dance in Catholicism that is done underneath the song Los Angeles for the Lost Babies.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's a great big matrix spiderweb system that's going on, and it goes way further than what I just explained. There's far more details. It's a humongous map, bro. I don't know who made it, how they made it, or whatever. I know it took hundreds of years to do, but basically what I just told you is that the color blue, what you see on mailmen, what you see on policemen, what you see in schools on the walls, what you see nurses wear. Okay, why do they wear all that color? Because that is the color of work, hype, happy, whistle while you work. You see?
Yeah.
So that's why it's painted on those devils in the Caribbean. And those blue devils, who are called the Blue Devils in the Caribbean Parade, have their own island in the Caribbean that they have their specific parade on. All the characters in the Caribbean have their own island that they battery charge and operate from. And then they go to the Brazil, and they have the big Caribbean carnival, and then they do the different carnivals throughout the islands. There's different ones that have different devil characters. All of them don't have the same characters. When you look at the entire of the carnival situation, there's anywhere, they say there's up to anywhere to about 100 some characters.
Wow.
And what they represent from different events that occurred during the Caribbean, and also the mechanisms that develop the African American culture, the stereotype battery systems that rerun inside our culture.
Wow, that's some deep stuff, man. Yeah, that's a monster tonight. You know what I mean? That's good though. No, it's really good because a lot of people don't know that. You know, I'm gonna start speaking on that, and maybe we'll probably connect on that because we've been connecting over the years over different things. More so.
Yo, watch this. Let me give you one more little piece of proof to prove what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The Blue Devils and the carnival happens in New York on what day?
When is that? I don't know. What's that? September?
Labor Day.
Labor Day. That's right. Yeah, September Labor Day. Yeah.
Work.
Yeah.
Work. Yeah. Work, bro. That's when the carnival happens. Exactly. Yeah. So there's a high level matrix wordplay system that's been developing over 500, 600 years that has been fused together in order to control your everyday operation and to cloak you underneath quote unquote culture.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Let me hold on 1 second. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen just to show people. Let me see if I can pull this thing up. Maybe I could download it so I can show people what is he actually talking about with these blue devils. I'm gonna pull. Yeah, I can do it. I can do it from here. Hold on 1 second. Let me just share my screen 1 minute. And okay, wait, hold on. This is what I'm talking about. You know what? Just forget it. I'll do it another time. Because we'll probably refocus on this conversation again to get more
Yeah.
in tune with it. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely wanna get into this. But yo, man, it's been a real pleasure, man. You know what I'm saying? This has been definitely food for thought. And it's just kind of what I envisioned. You know what I'm saying? We covered quite a few topics, and I mean, like on the last tale, man, you really got loose and just open up, so much that I think is good that we have it documented in video. You know what I'm saying? So that people could actually see, some of these things concerning plague, and they can get out there and get your books. I'm gonna put the link to your books, Kicked Out of Heaven, and a few other the series in the
Yeah,
description
you can go to
of the video. Yeah,
kickedoutofheaven.com. Yeah,
yeah,
stargatepublishing.com or keenanbooker.com, and you can
yeah,
get them all free for $100. Do your pre-orders right now.
yeah.
They're in color, over 1,000 pictures, because it's going to be selling quick. I only got 1,000 sales to make, and they're going to be flying out of here.
So we'll be back next week, right? We'll
All
be back
right.
next Sunday. This is the first episode of the OG Den. I'm gonna post it on Warlock Asylum YouTube page, and I'm gonna pass it on to brother 720. I hit you later on, probably tomorrow at this point. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go through it tonight. It's gonna be just a raw, straight edit, and we'll just keep the energy flowing, keep everything flowing, and
yeah,
just stick with us, y'all. You'll find a lot of information. This brother's got a lot of knowledge. I got some things to explode on, and in the conversation, you can see there's a lot of things come to life. If you have any questions or whatever, hopefully soon we'll be able to get into like a live chat down the line, and that would really be good. So this is Resal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum. On behalf of my brother 720 and myself, we just want to wish y'all a safe and happy evening. You know what I'm saying? And keep supporting, real talk. Peace.
all right. Peace.
Yeah.